Hey guys, it's Rushy. How's it going? Welcome back to the channel. I wasn't actually planning to do a video on Arcade Edition until Arcade Edition actually dropped, but I've had a few requests come in asking me my thoughts on Arcade Edition, on Ken, so I thought I'd do a quick little video just to go over a few little things. So let's crack on, let's get straight into it. Trying to balance any game, whether it's a fighting game, doesn't matter what, but anything that carries competition, online play, it's a very difficult task. There's lots of variables that have to be considered, and one small change can have a sort of butterfly effect, so a tiny little change can have a huge impact to the rest of the game and the way it works. So balance patching a game is not easy. This will be the third time they've done that to Street Fighter V with Arcade Edition. I often see people screaming in the streams and social media, complaining to Capcom. You know, we all have issues with the game, but it can't be very easy for them to actually make these changes and see the game improve. But I think they've really listened to what we wanted this time around, and I'm pretty optimistic with what I'm seeing. So the first thing you've got to look at, guys, is the overall changes to the game. So what are the universal changes to the game? So the major things that stand out to me are the extra frame, or the extra active frame on throws. I imagine it will be after, so you have 5 frames to start up, and it'll be frames 6, 7 and 8, which will be active frames. While that doesn't seem like much, that'll change a lot in the game. It'll make throws more powerful in neutral. Once you're at close range with someone and you use that throw, they'll be more viable. I know they've deleted throw loops from the game, which is a great thing, again, in my opinion, but don't think that throws are dead in this game. They exist, they do more damage now as well, which is another pretty much universal change across the board. The other universal change I wanted to talk about was V-trigger activation. So where you do a normal or a special and you cancel it into V-trigger, if you didn't notice before, but the V-trigger activation counts as a move. So where Ken activates, the damage scales by 1 level. So say if you did a stand medium punch at 100% damage, and then you hit V-trigger, the V-trigger would scale you down to 90, and your next attack would do 80% damage. Now, the way combos work in Street Fighter V is, and I think all Street Fighter in general is, every attack that combos, unless it's in unless you've got multiple hits within one move, scale down a level. So if you do a crouching medium punch, stand light kick will hit at 90% damage, and then your special finisher, you hit heavy punch DP would hit at 80 damage. V-trigger cancels in AE scale twice. So if you do a stand medium punch, like my previous example, hit V-trigger, then hit another button to combo, that button will only do 70% damage, whereas at the moment in Season 2 it does 80. So you do your stand medium punch, 100% damage, hit V-trigger, it drops to 80, and then 70 is what your next attack will be. That's a big difference, and that's why you're seeing a lot of these V-trigger combos doing less damage, and that's actually why the Shin Shuriken is doing less damage as well. So where you're saying that the Shin Shuriken isn't doing much damage, it's because it's scaling twice as much as it does at the moment in terms of comboing, so it's doing a lot less damage than you would expect. If you did a raw Shin Ryuken in AE, it would do more damage than it's doing the videos we're seeing at the moment. So this brings me on to Ken. So we all want to know what's different with Ken. So with Ken, the main things that stand out are he has increased forward walk speed. Now this is a really big buff because it affects everything. I mean, if he had increased forward and backwards walk speed, he would be really good. Think about it, increased walk speed enables you to play the footsie game a lot better. Yes, we all say he has stubby normals, but if he can walk in and out of the opponent's range at a better pace, which he will be able to with the walk forward speed, he's going to get in a lot easier. He's going to be able to walk in after a shimmy, he's going to be able to whiff punish better because he can walk forwards after a whiff and then get back in and attack. Even after a sweep, think about it, if you block a sweep and you want to get a better punish, you could do a little walk forward with those extra frames you've got and then go into an attack. So it's a big buff, extra walk speed, so don't focus on the negatives with Ken, there's a lot of positives. He has the universal change of increased damage to forward throw, and I think backwards throw as well. There's a big thing, I didn't mention this earlier on with universal changes, there's a big change to collision boxes, pushback, hit boxes, hurt boxes. We don't know at the moment what changes they'll have in the game, but I think they've been put in the game to improve the way normals collide. So I'm talking about lame anti-airs, easy mode anti-airs. So I think they've adjusted these light buttons and these common offenders where people use them as anti-airs, abuse really easy moves as anti-airs. I think now we're going to see more trades if people use these moves, and they'll come off worse because their light won't do much damage. I think that's what we're seeing. Ken particularly has a change to his crouching light punch, and I think he's standing light punch, and that could be because they can be abused as anti-airs. Not good anti-airs, but they do work sometimes as anti-airs. So that affects Ken, but it's not just Ken, it's across the board, so that's quite a big one. There's been a change to his stand meaning punch. It has more advantage on block now. It's plus 2 frames on block. That actually will create more frame trap scenarios. I think this has something to do with his throw loops going, but I'm not sure because obviously we haven't tried the game out yet. But I think we're going to be able to set a few things up after a forward throw in a corner. We saw Jones in the winner stays on session use stand heavy punch into EX Fireball last night. That's the sort of thing I was thinking of. I was thinking of meaty fireballs, I was thinking of like normals into V-trigger, I was thinking about normals into specials. I think a normal fireball may leave you unsafe at that range. But the standing meaning punch is very interesting, so I can't wait to play with that. I'm actually very intrigued as to why they've changed that. Another noteworthy change is the change to Thunder Kick. So it's a little, the wording's a little difficult to digest, but it says that the first active frame will not hit crouching opponents. So a lot of people have taken that as they've taken away the overhead combos unless you get count hit. I don't think it's that. I think by reading what they've said, if you think about it, if the first active frame doesn't hit crouching opponents, then that means the second active frame is going to hit crouching opponents. If the second active frame, which is a frame that actually hits the opponent, makes contact, then it should make cancelling into the follow-ups a lot easier. So if you think about it, if you land on the first active frame of overhead, forward heavy kick, and do like Tatsu, that's quite a tight link. But if you hit on the second or third active frame, I don't know how many active frames are on the overhead, I think it may be 3, maybe a couple more perhaps. Anything later makes it more meaty, and if it's more meaty, that means you can get better follow-ups. You may even be able to get overhead Thunder Kick into a 4 frame. It will be tight, but it may work. So I don't think that's a nerf, I think that's a buff. But it's the reason why I didn't want to do a video before Arcade Edition, because I didn't want to theorise about things, I want to test them out. But that's an interesting one. Proper anti-airs in Street Fighter 5 as well, it's worth noting, have been buffed. So every DP for Ken does more damage. Now this is really good. First off, it's going to net you more damage as just an anti-air. So if people are jumping, you're going to get more damage for anti-airing them using a proper anti-air, using your cross-up DPs. So that's massive. But what's notable, and this is a really important factor I think, is with the V-trigger scaling, the damage scaling now being 2 levels, not 1. Ken's V-trigger 1 will obviously be affected by that. He'll get less damage off his V-trigger 1 combo because of the, well, it's across the board, it affects everyone. Everyone's V-trigger comeback potential damage is affected. But because Ken gets a lot of mileage in the corner with DPs using V-trigger 1, for example, if you hit a normal into V-trigger, crouching heavy punch, EX Fireball, light punch DP, heavy punch DP, because of the buff on DPs, he's going to get a lot of damage off the DPs for corner combos. Now, that sort of cancels out the issue with the scaling. I think he'll still do less damage than he does at the moment, but it won't be a bad trade-off. So that's a really, really good thing for Ken. So not only is DP anti-airs going to get buffed, his combo ender anti-airs will get buffed as well, and his corner V-trigger 1 combos are going to be huge. They're going to do massive damage. So I'm really excited to use them in the Arcade Edition. Another change that I'm really happy with that I've made for Ken is the change to Minik Tatsu. So there are times where you use Minik Tatsu as a combo ender, and you don't get all 3 hits connecting, so you can't follow up with the XDP, you only get 2. But what they've done is where you get 2 hits at the Minik Tatsu after a confirmation or whatever setup you use, they've buffed the damage and the stun. So an example here is for V-trigger, the rotations were, the last 2 rotations attacks were 30 damage, so you'd only get 60 damage for 2 hits. You now get 50 per hit, so that's 100 in total. So they've buffed that across the board, all Minik Tatsus to 2 hits, the last 2 hits are connecting, more damage, more stun. That's really good because the Minik Tatsu 2 hits gives you very good Oki. And there are situations where you can't cancel into heavy kick Tatsu, especially out of V-trigger. You can't use heavy kick Tatsu off a light attack, for example. It's a combo ender. So you've got to use EX, but if you don't want to spend the EX, you may want to use Minik Tatsu. At least you get more reward now for using Minik Tatsu, and you get the Oki setup as well after it. So that's a really good change. I'm glad they noticed that. So that's excellent. Next up, guys, is heavy kick Tatsu. So the way I've read this is they reduced the active frames. So the active frames again are the ones that actually attack, actually hit the opponent, strike the opponent. Reduce the active frames of the first hit by 1 frame. So I'm trying to get this in my head. I don't know if it is reduce the active frames of the first hit at the beginning or at the end. To me, I would imagine it's at the beginning, and the reason I think they've done this is so they make it easier to react to it. So they're giving you 1 more frame to react to the heavy hit tattoo, to anti-air it or to knock it out of the air. I'm not 100% sure if it's towards the end of the first hit. I don't know what difference that would make. It wouldn't make any difference at all, I wouldn't think. But I don't think it affects the ability to combo after it. So I think you still combo after a heavy hit tattoo, non-V trigger, and you'll still get the juggle for the heavy hit tattoo V trigger. It's essentially a nerf from the way I'm reading it. They've just made it easier to handle the heavy hit tattoo, but I'm not sure. So again, this is why I didn't want to do a video before AE, because I'm not sure on how to interpret what they've said. But we'll have to leave a question mark on that one. So that's an interesting one. The final change I'm going to mention, guys, is the EX Airborne Tattoo in V-Trigger. What they've done there is they've increased the recovery on block for the opponent by 3 frames. So that's a nice little tweak they made there. Doesn't seem to affect, well, they've not mentioned non-V-Trigger EX Tattoo. But I don't know what it is on block at the moment, but I hear it's quite heavily minus, or it's significantly minus. So yeah, the opponent will have to respect that a little bit more. They'll be in block stun for a little longer. It doesn't mean that it'll buy you pressure, but it may mean you can take your turn even after then, or at least it'll bring you back to neutral, I think. But I don't really use EX Air Tattoo very much, especially in V-Trigger, so I'd have to lab that. That's pretty much why I didn't want to do this video, because I want to lab all this stuff myself when AE's out, and to make a decision based on what I see. At least I get a feel for what's going on. But I mean, if that has given, I mean, even if it's like +1, at least you haven't got to eat their pressure afterwards, unless you mash EXDP. So guys, that's it. Yeah, I've skimmed over these things really quickly. I'm not going into everything really detailed, because you know we could talk about this for days, and I do plan to do an initial overview like I did for season 2 once AE's out. There I'll talk about things generally in more detail, and then I'll break down in separate videos each section 1 by 1. So guys, I really hope that's been helpful. I hope it's answered a lot of questions if you weren't sure what's going on. But look at the changes universally, and that will help you decide where Ken sits in the inverted commas tier list. Don't really like tier lists, but yeah, it'll give you an idea of where he sits. So guys, hope you enjoyed that. I hope it's been helpful. I shall see you in AE, so take care. I'll catch you then.